All right. Well, with that being said, we are going to start today. We're going to actually start in chapter 12 of Genesis. I'm going to sum up the last of 11, um, mainly just that way I don't have to hear me butcher some very important names from thousands of years ago. We go into Shem's descendants, which Shem is the son of Noah, correct? So Shem's descendants go all the way down to Terah, and Terah's descendants, we hear about Abraham, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Uh, I will say Abraham 1,002 times whenever I mean Abram. The reason why, as we will see later on, his name changes. Like I tell my wife, whenever I read the Bible, I know who I'm talking about. So I want to let you guys know, if I say Abraham, you just go on right with it. It'll get there. I promise. Um, but we're about to find out how the journey from a man that was chosen by God changes his view of what God can do for him. So we will begin in chapter 12 and verse 1. And it says in the book of Genesis, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you." Notice here that God gives Abram a command. Abram has taken a wife named Sarah, and she is barren and she has no children. That means that she cannot have children. Um, and whenever God comes upon him, he tells him to leave your country and all your kindred. God is trying to separate Abram from the people that he is with. Sometimes in our lives, we see that, whenever God calls you to be more, especially whenever he calls you into being a Christian, sometimes you have to leave your group. It's not that they don't need to hear the gospel. It's not that they don't need to hear your testimony. It's that you're in such a place to where God is needing to show you something, so therefore he needs to remove you from a place so he can show you exactly what he can do. Most of the time we try our best to not do that. We don't want to leave our friends because they've been our friends. But you got to understand that whenever God calls and God requests, whenever God wants you to do something, it is our job to listen. We find out the faith of Abram here in the next verses. For it says, "The land that I will show you." In verse 2 it says, "And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in all your families of the earth shall be blessed." And so Abraham went as the Lord had told him. He did what God told him to do, but listen where he didn't. And Lot went with him. So we see here is the first time that we see Abram's faith is tested. Abram is told, "Hey, I need you to go to this place that I'm going to show you. Just pack up and start walking. I need you to leave everything behind you." And Abram says, "Okay, mysterious voice that is here with me, and I'm going, but my nephew's coming too." Lot went with him. Notice how in verse 4 it says, "So Abram went as the Lord had told him." He did what God told him there, but then it throws in there that Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, that's his nephew, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran. So not only did he take Lot and his nephew, he also took all the people, all the servants, and all the stable keepers and everything, the shepherds that took care of his life. He took all of them with him. God said to take his family and go. We see the faith of Abram here. And they set out to go to the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place of Shemek, to the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. In verse 7, it says, Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, To your offspring I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord. And who had appeared, he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. We see here God going ahead and laying the foundation for the future of what's to come. God can see everything throughout time because God is omnipresent. Whenever I say that He lives outside of space and time, I honestly believe because He lives outside of space and time. It's the reason why to Him that the kingdom of heaven is coming soon. He's still on the first eye blink after that phrase was said. He is outside of all this, so he can see generations down because he's in that time already, also because of who he is. So he is telling Abram what he's going to do in the future for his generations to come, his offspring. Remember, Abram's wife is barren. He has nobody coming yet. But we see the transition of Abram's faith through these chapters. So, for it says in verse 8, For there he had moved to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent. And with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east, and there he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on, still going toward the Negeb. Now, there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt. You will see a constant thing throughout the Old Testament of, well, not really the Old Testament, let's say the Torah portion of the Old Testament. You will see, if there's famine in the land, you go to Egypt. Don't know why. And let me rephrase that. I do know why. It's because the Nile comes down through Egypt. And as the Nile comes through Egypt, it brings down all the fresh, fertile soot from the mountains up above Egypt. Below Egypt. I think it's below Egypt that way because the water goes backwards that way. Anyways, the water comes down from the mountains. And whenever the water comes down from the mountains, it brings down that fresh, fertile soil. So even in the famines, they can grow. We'll see that in the future whenever we get into Joseph, how there's like 7 years of bountiful, so much food that they store it up for whenever the famine hits. They have 7 years of food left over whenever the famine's going on. Egypt is the place to go whenever you need food in Genesis. So we see here the first time Abram sojourns to Egypt. It says that so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there. Now, sojourn there does not mean. Does anybody know what that means before I tell you guys the answer? Sojourn there is like a traveling man. You go down there, you pitch a tent. You're not setting up shop. You just go there to be a part of there for a little while. I guess I don't want to say homeless people would be sojourners of today. Have you ever seen those people on YouTube and like they do something crazy? Like right now, I'm watching some dude that's taking and canoeing all the way from Canada to the Gulf of America and back up to Canada. He's on like day 370 something of it, dressed like a pirate in a little canoe boat going. He's sojourning. He's going to a place. He's going to stay there. He stayed in the Gulf of America for a while, and now he's going back. He had no intention of staying there, but he had to go there because there was something he wanted to do. Same thing here for Abram. For he was sojourned there, for the famine was severe in the land. In verse 11, when he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarah, his wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say this. They will say that this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you are my sister, that I may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake. And when Abram entered into Egypt, The Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful, and whenever the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house, and for her sake he dealt well with Abram, and he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female servants, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh in his house with a great plague because of Sarah, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you have done to me? Why do you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say that she is my sister? So I took her for my wife. Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." And the Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. We see, like I said in the beginning, we see here Abram's faith. Abram sees that a famine's coming. He knows that Egypt's there. He goes to Egypt to sojourn, even though God told him, "Go to the place that I'm sending you." So whenever he goes to this place in Egypt, he says, "Well, they see you as my wife. You're very beautiful. They're going to kill me and take you. So you need to say that you're my sister." Abram doesn't have the faith in God for this moment. He doesn't trust God's plan because God's already told him what? "I'm going to make nations out of you. I will make your name great. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who dishonor you." God has already given him his intentions with him. He hasn't made the covenant quite yet, but he has made his intentions with him known. Abram has enough faith to follow him, but he doesn't have enough faith to trust in him. How many of us in our own walks wind up doing the exact same thing? We have enough faith to know who Jesus Christ is, but yet we don't have enough faith to trust him with our lives. My wife said it this way, that she knew who Jesus was, but she didn't allow him to be the Lord of her life. Whenever we get to this point, we got to understand that that is not what God is calling us to be. God is calling us to be no holds bar, all in for Jesus. He wants us with complete faith. I'm talking about YouTube a lot right now. They have these YouTube videos of these guys who's like, whenever I expect to hear a blessing from God, and it's got like an overhead voice, and it's like, "Quit your job. I'm going to give you $10,000 a week to go out and start all kinds of missions all over America." And he says, "What I actually get, message from God, quit your job." And he's just standing there waiting on the rest of it. I'm not sitting here telling anybody they should be quitting their job. But what I am saying is that whenever God is calling us, he wants us to have complete and utter faith in him. He doesn't want us to have this half faith to where we can trust him with these things that he said he's going to do, but we're not willing to trust him with everything else. We're willing to trust him in today's time with what he's doing in our family and us going to church and bringing our kids to church and making sure that they're here for Sunday school, but we're not willing to trust him with our finances. We're not willing to give him his portion. We're not willing to give him our time. I can take it, and because I worked yesterday, I'm going to say this. I feel like I have worked for 92 days just because I worked 6 days this week. How many days did I wind up working for God this week? You know, we have a very mixed review. Just because we go to church does not mean that we have somehow figured out the key to this text. We haven't figured out the mysteries that God has in here. They're not secrets that you're not allowed to know. There's mysteries because it's our job to find them in the scriptures. It is our job to build ourselves in such a way that our faith doesn't falter like this. As we see here, Abram, trusting God with everything he told him to do as far as going and doing, but he didn't listen to about not bringing anybody with him. And he didn't listen to the, I'm going to make you great. So now he's here terrified of what the Pharaoh is going to do. But God's already said that he's going to bring up generations through Abram. So, if the Pharaoh has now taken Abram's wife as his own wife, but God is going to make sure that there is no doubt in anybody's mind that whenever he builds up generations from Abram, that it's from Abram and Sarah. So I believe whatever the affliction was, there was no way that you see here in the scriptures, we've covered this about the Pharaoh could not know Sarah. There was no opportunity for that because God did not want to muddy any picture of somebody saying, well, the Pharaoh was the one that really started this whole generations thing, not Abram. The Pharaoh gets plagued and he comes out and he's like, bro, what did you do to me? You've messed me up. You told me this was your sister. I've done give you all this stuff. Look, I don't even care. Just go because I want to go back to being me. Notice here that even though Abram's faith falters and he lies because he doesn't think God can protect him. He still leaves protected. And he still leaves with more than he showed up with. God is still blessing him even in his faltered faith. Sometimes that's something we have to remember. Just because the good times are rolling in our life does not mean that we have it all figured out with Jesus. Because generally, if the good times are rolling with you, it's because the devil knows he's got you right where he wants you. But God is wanting so much more from us. So we see here, as we begin in chapter 13 of Genesis. So Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife and all he had, and Lot was still with him. They went into Negeb. In verse 2, now Abram was very rich in livestock. He just got a whole ton of them from the Pharaoh. He was rich in livestock and in silver and gold. And he journeyed on from the Negeb as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at first. And then Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot, who was with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling there together. For their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between herdsmen and Abram's livestock and herdsmen's and Lot's livestock. And at the time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, let there be no strife between you and me, and between the herdsmen, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. It is not the whole land before you. Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right. But if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and he saw the Jordan Valley was very well watered, and everywhere was like a garden. It was like a garden of the Lord. And like the land of Egypt in every direction of Zoar, this was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed eastward. Thus they separated from each other, and Abraham settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities in the valleys and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. And the Lord said to Abram, after Lot has separated from him, lift up your eyes and look to that place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring can also be counted. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of this land, for I will give it to you. So Abram moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron. And there he built an altar to the Lord. We notice here that Abram is a man of understanding. I do believe. I honestly don't know why God chose Abram. I don't know. I believe it's because of what we're about to see Abraham become. But I believe that it also had a thing with his countenance, because men of the church, what do you want? You want more. You want more. You want that motorcycle. You want that nice new car. You want that bigger house. You want that more land. You want that 4-wheeler. You want everything. Problem is, all the stuff that you want costs a lot of money. But we see here, whenever it comes time, Abram's the chosen one of this group. We see how God has went from a vast overview of everybody on the planet Earth to narrowing in to one man and his family. Not one man, his family, and his nephew's family, because we will see them peel off here with this separation. We see God focusing in on the line that he is choosing to bring through his Messiah. Because we already seen back in the second or third chapter of Genesis, where God has already proclaimed that he will raise up one. The messianic prophecy that is in the beginning is now being narrowed down to one bloodline. So whenever it comes time for them to choose, Abraham gets up there, the most humble of whatever he could be, trying to please his kinsmen, trying to please his family, and just say, look, whatever you take, I'll take the other. And as Lot goes off, God says, lift your eyes from where you stand now, look north, south, east, and west, and know that I'm giving it all to you. God knows where he's sending us. It is just our job to follow. It is so easy as I don't know if you guys have watched The Chosen ever, but if you get a bit of chance, you got to get through the first season. It's a little rough. I said a little. The beginning, the first 2 episodes, really. But once you get through them, it becomes a lot better. And there's a portion where Matthew is standing there, and he is so nervous in the beginning with everything that he did. And as he's standing there and he's talking to this Roman soldier, he says, you know, it just becomes so much easier whenever I wake up every day and just know that I have to follow him. The same is for us. Even with the hardest things going on. This morning, last night my wife starts doing laundry, and I go over to help her out after she goes to bed. I'm going to take the clothes out of the dryer. They're still wet, so I throw them back in there and start them up again. My daughter comes in this morning and says, clothes are still wet, so I started them again. We replaced the heating element on this thing maybe a little bit over 6 months ago. But you know what? It's going to be okay, because A, I know how to change that bad boy, and B, we got to come to church this morning. Whenever you're just following Jesus, you can let the other stuff just fade to the back and just focus on him. So that way, whenever you come in the morning and you get asked to lead the prayer for the morning, it's all about giving him the honor. Who cares that a thing at home is busted? Because I'm at the place where broken things get fixed. All we have to do is follow him. God will work out everything in his time. I think we start to see in this moment where we see why God chose the line of Abram to begin his trail to the Messiah. Because he was humble enough to give up whatever Lot wanted, so that way they could continue being family. So as we get on from that, I'm going to start into 14. I doubt I'm going to finish because we're about to find out about a man named Melchizedek and how cool he really is. It says in chapter 14 and verse 1, in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arok, king of Elasar, Chlorium king, and Elam of Elam, and Tidal king of Goel. These kings made war with Ber king of Sodom, the Bersha king of Gomorrah, and Shinab king of Admah. Shemir king of Zeboiim, and the king of Bela, that is Zor. And all these joined forces in the valley of Siddim, that is the sea of the Salt Sea. 12 years they had served Calamite. I said it earlier. Now I can't. Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year rebelled. In the 14th year of Chedorlaomer, and the kings who were with him came and defeated the Rephaim in Aristarchel and Kernaim. These Zunam and Ham, the Enim in Sheva, Carathium, and the Hordites in their hill country of Seir, as far as Elparn on the borders of the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to Mishap, that is Kadesh, and defeated all the countries of the Amalekites and of the Amorites, who were dwelling in the Horizon Tamar. The kings of Sodom and the kings of Gomorrah and the kings of Edom and the kings of Zeboni and the kings of Bela, that is Zor, went out and they joined battle in the valley of Siddim and with Chaldermer, king of Elam, Tidal king of Goam, and Ephraim king of Shinar. The Arok king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of Butamite pits. Okay, Butamite. That means tar. All right, so sticky pits. And the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. Some fell into them, and the rest fled to the hill country. So the enemies took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abraham's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew, who was living in the oaks of Mer, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and of Aner. These were allies of Abram. Where Abram heard that his kinsmen had been taken captive, he led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318 of them, and went into pursuit as far as Dan. And he divided his forces against them by night, and he his servants, and defeated them and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. Then he brought back all the possessions, and also brought back his kinsman Lot with his possessions and women and people. We see here that there's this battle going on, and Lot gets taken up. We see now that Lot has actually set up shop real close to. You guys can go ahead for these guys. Yeah, no. Okay, never mind. We see that Lot has moved into that valley that looks so beautiful and so perfect and everything, and he has actually set up shop next to a place that is very wicked. He's not moved in yet, but he's set up to a place next to it. We see the downfall that continues happening with man outside of the line of outside of this line. As we're seeing Abraham go up right now, we see how man continues that cycle of just keep going down. Whenever Abraham comes back with his men after they defeat these people and gets his son, he comes back with all these possessions. We find out that Abram meets a weird man. It says, after the return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the kings of Sodom, went out to meet him in the valley of Sheba. That is the king's valley. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heavens and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abram gave him a tenth of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heavens and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal strap of anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. I will take nothing but what the young men have eaten, and share of the men who went with me, and let Asner, Eshcol, and Mur take their same. Those were the buddies that went with Abram. We see here the first high priest that is called by God. Now, as we get into the law of this thing later on, you will see that only a priest can come from the tribe of Levi. But we see here in this aspect that whenever God calls someone, he can call anyone he desires. And he calls this man named Melchizedek, who blesses Abram. And Abram tries to give him a tenth of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord God Most High, possessor of the heavens and the earth. Abram cannot take that, because if he does, then Melchizedek can say that I'm the one that made Abram rich. Abram wants to bless the one that come and give him the blessing. We see the beginning of God's promise to Abram from the beginning of chapter 12, now in verse 14, that those who bless you, I will bless them. Those who curse you, who dishonor you, I will curse them. We see now how God is starting to use Abram. And in chapter 15, whenever we start next week, we will see the first covenant that God makes with Abram.